the true hope and the true peace that we're striving for. I know you've addressed a little bit of this, and you had mentioned earlier when we talked today on the phone about several other people. Like you mentioned, servant of God, Father Gobi, and you mentioned Luisa Picaretta, and there are others out there who have had incredible insights to two things: the reality of the world that we're going through, and the prophecies of what we would go through, that they would be very challenging. And even the Catechism of the Catholic Church states that the Catholic faith will go through a great shaking, and that shaking is going to test us. So that is coming whether we really appreciate it, like it, want it, or not. But only clinging to God do we find true hope. And we talk about true hope as opposed to the football team or birthday party. Those things are great, they have their place. But we're talking about something that is, I think you said earlier today, when things get really, really hard, your concern is that a lot of people will get so caught up in the confusion and the lies and the apostasy that they will simply lose their groundedness. And it makes me think, I'll say this last point and then pass it to you. Father John Hardin, God rest his soul, was a great man, very close to the Holy See years ago. But he said before he died that in the future, that average Catholics will not survive it. They just won't. You have to be a heroic Catholic to survive what's coming. And do you think that applies to a lot of the apostasy and the warnings that we're getting? And then would that true hope that we're looking for be found then in knowing what the truth is in the times of this great shaking and not deviating from that truth and adhering to prayer, sacraments, and Our Lady? It's not rocket science. As a friend of mine says, you don't got to be a rocket surgeon. A little combination there. Yeah, put it together, right? Rocket surgeon. You don't got to be a rocket surgeon to figure out that deviating from a prayerful life, a sacramental life, and a devotion to the Blessed Mother is really, it's like assured destruction. Your thoughts on all this?
There's a message that Our Lady gave, I believe, to Servant of God, Father Gobi, where it said, if we, in these times, if we do not unite ourselves to her, if we do not consecrate ourselves to her, we have a great chance of being lost. And I thought that was fascinating. So that's coming from heaven. And what that meant to me was a little bit of what you're saying, whereby we won't have Our Lady's mantle over us, kind of like this protection from heresy, protection from lies, protection from unnecessary dangers that God does not want to permit. So we can just, as these voices of apostasy get louder and louder and more frequent, more accepted. We see this happening already in so many venues that you have great swaths of the church are disobedient in certain areas, right? Certain teachings, great swaths are already there. And so Our Lady, she puts the mantle over us, and she did this with me, and I've seen her do it with so many people, and it's promised in these messages that, like Father St. John Bosco's vision, where you have the Eucharist on Our Lady and the boats going between the two, she keeps you on track as all these other forces are tugging at you, pulling you, and getting you to believe something that's not exactly in the true magisterium of the church, that it's a half truth. It's got some goodness, but not all of it, and all of it's a trick. And so the beautiful thing is she helps our minds. And we will not make it if we're not heroes in terms of gripping the true magisterium, gripping virtues, gripping the gifts God gave us, and not compromising, because that's what's going to be offered us, is all these compromises, which will give us some kind of material comfort or some kind of honor or some kind of supposed safety. And that's all going to be presented to everybody. And it's going to be cheered and celebrated. And one of the messages from Friar Augustine, who I mentioned, was that those who adhere to the truth are going to be seen as radical, extreme troublemakers. Radical, extreme troublemakers. So
Sounds like Father.
we're not ready to be labeled that, we're not going to make it. And it was so interesting. St. Carlo Acutis. So you asked what Queen of Peace Media has been up to, Father Hellman, but this is the book I was going to share with you guys, Bedtime with the Saints, featuring St. Carlo Acutis. I had so much fun writing this. Father Frank Lee, his stories are in there, and I added some to add saints from all sexes, all ages, all around the world. So everyone knows. Oh, there I go. There's the Zoom thing happening, folks. Sorry to make you seasick. queenofpeacemedia.com, all around the world. You too can be a saint. You too are called to be a saint. And this has great stuff about St. Carlo Acutis that other people didn't know. And Doug, one of the things he said, and he didn't like, he was so young, he didn't like when people got caught up in worldly discussions like armaments or the arms race or whatever it is, right? And they'd argue it and they'd think about it. And he was so wise, he thought, you're not making a difference. you're just arguing. And he said people need to tend to those in their vicinity. They need to love the homeless person right next to them. So he would go outside and he, give food to the homeless down the street. He would help the kid at school who was struggling with what he was given in the circles he was given, and through the computer he was given skills to use through his Eucharistic exhibitions. He did what was in front of him in love and in truth. He didn't go arguing all this stuff with people who disagree, because Our Lady actually said in a message given to, it's on the called the kingdom.com site, an unlikely soul. That's a whole other story, but this really rough guy was getting messages from Mary in the 90s. They're beautiful. And in one of them, she says, do not argue. Stop it. So she's saying, don't, my children. So we have an order from our mom to stop doing that. And so instead of clashing with people who disagree and aren't going to be changed, they're just going to think, I don't want to talk to you anymore. It's usually the result. We need to find that common ground of joy and miracles. And people like that stuff. They might not believe it, but they're intrigued. And so that leads me to the miraculous medal, because when you give someone and you do something like say, hey, I've got this medal for you, and we have these free medals, they're blessed, we make you pay only for the cord at cost because we want them distributed everywhere. If you give someone a miraculous medal, and we have flyers, evangelization flyers, that tell you what the medal is about, they're excited. Suddenly it's not about whether Putin's going to do this or that, and it's not about Ukraine, and it's not about Israel, and it's not about COVID, and it's you gave me a medal. You care about me, you care about my heart, or you care about my son, or you care about my cancer. Yes, I do. Heart to heart, here's a medal. Our Lady will help you. Thank you. They might throw it in a bin, they might not. But those are the kind of doors she's opening now. Those are the kind of miracles she sees. It's like act, move, go towards your enemy with love.